All right, welcome in for those starting to join us. We'll give it a couple more seconds and we'll get started. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome for those who are here today for another derived presentation. Today we're talking about time management. So make sure to ask as many questions as you'd like. Laura and Aaron are here and are eager to hear all about your questions today. You'll be receiving this recording and the slides in our post-event email, so be on the lookout for that. And we will be doing a little raffle at the end. We have a couple Diamondbacks tickets to a game on September 1st against the Padres, so very exciting. And we'll announce the winner at the end. So with that, just a quick reminder, we have our very first signature event this fall, leading to this fall, tomorrow, August 19th, our Business Diversity Summit. It is open to the public, so make sure you register. It is a virtual event, so we hope you can make it 12 to 1:30 tomorrow. Again, open to the public, and hope you can make it tomorrow. And with that, I'd like to hand it out to Aaron and Laura to take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. But we are super, super, super excited again to be joining you all this morning. We're going to work together on some time management strategies. Laura and I are excited to be here. I'm looking forward to the same level of engagement today as what we had 2 weeks ago with the project management workshop. But we do have an activity to work through later on in this presentation. So if you can have a piece of paper and a pen nearby so that you can work through, a project on prioritizing some of your own personal projects and things so that you can work or identify some good time management strategies for yourself, that would be helpful because we want full engagement. But with that said, I'd like to start out with a question. If you had an extra 10 hours a week handed to you on a silver platter, what would you do with it? If I know personally, if I had an extra 10 hours a week, I would probably try to be more dedicated to working out. Because for whatever reason, that's the one thing I don't seem to prioritize in my day-to-day. Laura, anything for you?
Vacation.
There you go. Oh. Now that I always make time for. Amber is back again. Hi, Amber. But yeah, work out more out. So that's one of my big ones. Cleaning out the closet.
Organizing my life.
Sleep.
Yes.
Sleep and sleep.
We were in a leadership meeting one time and they asked what does this I like to do on my free time? And I told them nothing. People don't value, that downtime enough, but you have to get it in. But thank you all so much for that input. In a normal 8-hour day, distractions and poor time management cost us about 2.1 hours a day. That's over 25% or a quarter of our workday. So let's see how we can get back some of the most important commodity, and that's our time. Welcome, Kim. And yep, reading. That's something we don't get much time to do with these days. But today we're going to look at several key areas of time management. Multitasking, you know, identifying how to juggle multiple projects and things, et cetera, at the same time, and determine if multitasking is even a reasonable ask of you personally, or is it creating more chaos in your time management? Maximize your time. We're going to look at how to get the most out of the time you have without burning yourself out. Burnout is a big one, especially even as we've been working remotely, because people have been realizing that they're working more from home than they did commuting into the office. Prioritization. We're going to identify what needs to get done and in what order. And that's going to be part of the project that we work on later on in the workshop. And then we're going to identify some digital tools to get us organized and maximize our time. And then, of course, finally, we're going to wrap up with a brief overview of the education opportunities at DeVry University, along with the contact information for both Laura and myself. So let's get started. Here's another question for you. What would you say are your biggest time bandits at work? Please feel free to chime in on the chat. One of my biggest ones when we were in the office was taking extended lunches with my leadership team. While it was still partially working, it was also like social hour for us. So I really, really, really enjoyed that time. Email and phone calls, Kim. Amber, it was lovely. Impromptu meetings, Lord, yes. Throwing that wrench into your list of things to do today. Morning coffee social hour. But yeah, these are all great points you all are hitting on. But time bandits can be distractions or time wasters, or new tasks, as you all have mentioned in there. Opportunities, projects that shift your attention from the planned work in front of you. People often mention this, you all have social media, emails, chatting with coworkers, unplanned meetings, new projects and priorities, and then shifting between tasks. And that's a big issue for me personally. But again, all great insights. And we've all had those days where we're trying to manage a significant workload or simply juggle what's in front of us. And there's just not enough time. And that's why we're here today. We're going to learn how to reevaluate how you're spending your time and be more productive. Let's talk about multitasking. In a recent study, David Meyer from the University of Michigan showed that switching what you are doing mid-task increases the time it takes you to finish both tasks by 25%. This can impact your ability to finish assignments on time or even diminish the quality of our deliverables. Now let's talk about how to reorganize when it is possible to multitask. Because let's just be clear, multitasking is not for everyone. I know at times I have tried it and it is very true that I've gotten nothing done on time. The truth is that according to research, multitasking is possible. It's just that the two activities should not tax the same part of your brain at once. Multitasking is hardest when the tasks are similar to each other, but a bit easier if they are different. So while chatting on the phone and writing an email is difficult because they involve similar thinking processes, in order to generate meaningful sentences, talking while playing the piano isn't as hard. I don't know if anybody else has, I know sometimes I have my TV on in the background in my office and I'm trying to write an email out, but I'm listening to the TV at the same time. And then I'll see or catch myself typing in words that were in the show I was watching, but not actually typing out what it was I was intending to type. But that's the point where multitasking is not possible for me. Yet, Laura, you are a multitasker. Can anybody else share any type of activities that you think that you can multitask without compromising efficiency and quality?
You know, Erin, I used to be able to multitask when I was younger. But the older I get, I multitasking just doesn't work. I have to focus on one task at a time. Otherwise, I get nothing done at all. So I don't do multitasking anymore.
Right there with you.
I think there are certain things, people say, okay, if you have your smartphone and you can maybe put on a training program that you need to get through that you've been assigned at work, you can do that maybe if you're on the exercise bike or walking to a certain extent, right? But you are diminishing the attention a bit. And I joke when I say I'm addicted to multitasking. I think I'm like you, Saria. I used to be better at it. And I do find sometimes that hours will pass and I'm thinking, what have I turned in, right? What have I delivered? What have I done, right? I have 5 things in the process of being done, but none of it's done. So it can be tricky, although I think there is some, there is some truth to the fact that if it's 2 different parts of your brain, maybe we can do those 2 different things, walking and listening to classical music, perfect, and writing emails.
Definitely good points. I found myself on my work computer last night at 9 o'clock getting a checklist done that was on my to-do list earlier in the day. But that's because during the day I had some unplanned meetings that I ended up attending, and then I'm trying to work on some other stuff while sitting in the meetings. It got out of hand. But we talked about that in, was it communication? And creating that chaotic environment, and how do we all respond to chaos? And mine is to shut down and withdraw. But it's a skill set to identify when it's heading that way, so that you can prevent it before it goes too far. But thank you all so much for the input on the activities that you think you can multitask on. But interesting enough, research has found that around 2% of people are brilliant supertaskers and able to divide their concentration effortlessly and suffer no drop in performance. But I'm just curious today, who would fall into this category? I mean, we've all said that we weren't, but is there anyone that does feel that they are efficient multitaskers? And if you do, keep doing what you're doing. But the rest of us, it's important to be aware that multitasking can in fact slow us down if we're not careful. So it looks like from the chat, we're all in the same boat. None of us are multitaskers. Now, how are we going to maximize our time? We have 5 tips to maximize our time. And the first one is giving your full attention to the task in front of you. When you set a clear rule that you will focus on only one specific task at a time, you increase your efficiency dramatically. The second tip would be to set specific time frames for task completion. It's amazing how focused we can be when we have a short amount of time to get a task completed. How many of you feel more productive when you are under pressure of a deadline? That must be that project management quality in you, Saria.
At the start of every project, it is a little hectic, right? It doesn't get like unhectic until we're actually, doing the work. So I can relate to that.
But yep, I get it. But if you have 15 minutes to complete a task, then commit yourself to getting it done within that amount of time so you can move on to your next task. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Has anyone heard of the Pomodoro technique, where you set a timer for 25 minutes and stay focused on the task at hand for that 25 minutes? Then take a 5-minute break and then set the timer again for 25 minutes. Amber has. So this is where I, again, struggle personally. If I see something counting down, it gives me a bit of anxiety and I freeze. It's been the same way even with test taking, and they give you, you have however long to finish, whatever. And I'm sitting there watching a clock tick down, and I can't function. But moving on to our third tip, becoming more effective at switching gears. It wastes precious time when you have to switch gears between unlike activities. If you wear a lot of hats, this is important. I know Laura and I, we wear a lot of hats in our role. You know, at any given moment, we can be on discussing our community relationships, but then in the next moment, we're focusing on campus operations, two completely different tasks, but we're wearing hats that cover all areas of the business. And then what you can do is batch your tasks so that you're working on similar activities together. So phone calls, paperwork, financial analysis, emails, try to combine similar activities together to reduce switching costs. Yes, I agree, Laura. It's tough to switch mentally sometimes. Fourth tip, prioritize high payoff and low priority tasks. So at the top of your list should be the high payoff items with the lower priority items at the bottom. We'll get into some specific prioritization strategies a little later in the presentation, but that's the activity that I mentioned at the beginning of this workshop that we'll be working on, where you need your pen and paper. And then the fifth tip is to make a calendar and follow it. Write things down on paper or in your online calendar. Once it's written down, it's not bouncing around in your head, which can provide a lot of relief and control in your life. I know daily, when I log off at night, I take a Post-it and I just make a to-do list. And I have to go and check through those things the next day. But it helps keep me focused, even if they go and throw something else into the next day that I didn't anticipate or didn't plan on. But on that note, I'm going to switch it over to Laura.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Erin. These are some great tips. I think the goal of today is just arming everyone with a couple of tips, a couple of thoughts, a couple of strategies to help us maximize our time. It is truly, like Erin said, our most important commodity, because we use time to make money, right? They say time and money, but really time is number one. It's the time that we use to get ahead in life, to accomplish our dreams, and to, really to earn that money, right? And to sort of make a dent, right? Make an impact in our own careers and accomplish our own goals. So I just wanted to ask everybody here who's joined us, how do you all prioritize, your day? We've given you some tips. How do you prioritize your week, your month? What are your go-to methods? Are you a list maker? What are your approaches? Okay, to-do lists on Post-its. Absolutely. I can see why the Post-it company makes so much money, right? Love Post-its. I have them posted everywhere. And then every once in a while, I'll just go through them all and, check off. I think there's a certain, list makers, making a list, checking it twice. And then there's a certain pleasure, right? There's a certain satisfaction, I think, of checking off those lists, literally scratching out what those tasks were. Okay, getting through that list and then throwing it away and starting over. Lather, rinse, repeat. Okay, Amber has a daily planner, super organized for personal errands. So something, some people, yes, leverage that daily planner, something that you can keep handy in your purse, something tangible, physical that you can use and write, your doctor's appointments and everything else. And then your calendar on your phone and a digital to-do list for work. That sounds like an excellent combination. And just keeping your eye on all those moving pieces, right, is important, and crossing things off. So I want us to think a little bit deeper about how we prioritize literally what is on our list. I want us to step back and right now jot down 5 or 7 things on your piece of paper, if you have a pad of paper or something, or even if you don't, in a Word document or on your smartphone. Let's take a couple of minutes to jot down 5 to 7 items, tasks, projects that are currently priority for you. Okay, so even, Erin, Saria, let's just all take a minute to jot down those things that are swirling around our heads that we have to do today, maybe, by the end of the week, 5 to 7 important tasks. Okay, and we're going to keep this list handy. Okay, we're going to use it over the next couple of minutes as we move on. So hopefully you've had a chance to go ahead and do that. And we're going to talk about taking a look at those tasks and actually on the next slide, really just critically thinking about those tasks. I think we all default. I know I do. I make these lists, these long lists, and, I assume right off the bat, and maybe this is just me, that I have to do all of this on my own. I'm a high responsibility person, okay? And I have to do 100% of all of these tasks on my own. But we're gonna go over a way to look at all of your tasks a bit differently in an effort to get them done more quickly and effectively, leveraging the resources and your teams, i.e. the people around you. We're gonna consider teamwork making the dream work, okay? By delegating, managing up, etc. Okay, so let's take a look at our to-do list. Really, you always want to spend a brief amount of time unpacking or critically thinking about each item. And again, not just jumping to the conclusion that 100% of these tasks are 100% to be accomplished by you. So with your tasks, and this harkens back a little bit to 2 weeks ago, our project management presentation, you want to understand your responsibilities. You want to understand the scope of work. Okay, you're going to identify key stakeholders. If they're more complex tasks, who are the key stakeholders? Are they your clients? Okay, are they your partners, your colleagues? Maybe your director, your VP, your president, company owner. And you're going to think about those timeframes, not only the ultimate due date, but sort of mini interim timeframes or milestones. And really, we're going to want to think a little bit more, about delegation and about those stakeholders. Okay, again, truly dream work, or teamwork makes the dream work, and involving your team, right, and the people around you in accomplishing your goals is huge. It's huge. Okay, oddly, my list is full of things I have to accomplish and cannot delegate. Yeah, certain things we can't delegate. You have to go to the doctor's office, right? That's on you. But I think you will find that certain larger, more complex goals can be helped, right, by a team, or even if your team knows about your goals, sometimes even just through encouragement and helping you stay on task. The more we communicate, this goes back to our communication presentation, about the important goals that we have, oftentimes the more help we get, from out there, from beyond ourselves. So we're going to move on and we're going to talk a little bit about delegation. Erin says it's very difficult to delegate. I think I may be the same way. I think sometimes naturally people are, it's tough for us to delegate because we're thinking, oh my gosh, is this faster if I do this myself? Some people are really good, but almost overly good at delegating. And we want to make sure that we're not over delegating as well. So what is delegation? It's sharing or transferring the authority and the associated responsibility of a task or a project to another employee or department. Okay, and I guess I'll do just a mini survey. Who is, of all of us, on this workshop today, I guess, who is really good at delegating? Who considers it sort of a superpower, being able to effectively delegate and get things done successfully? And who of us, like Erin and myself, we're more of the school of, it's a little bit, we just assume, I almost don't even think about delegating in my mind. Sometimes it doesn't cross my mind. And so that's an opportunity for me. And something that I'm working on is to think, at least give it some thought, right? Give it some thought. Who's excellent at delegating? Saria, I know you are. You have to be, right? as a project manager?
I can't do the project by myself.
Right. Yeah. By definition, you are required.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you're required to delegate. And I know that you have, so I'm sure it's an art and a science, right? It is an art and a science. So we're going to go to the next slide and talk about delegating. And hopefully, Surya, this is, very, very familiar to you. There's some questions to consider when delegating, when you suspect, okay, this needs delegating. I can't do all of this. Here's some questions that you can ask yourself, yeah, should you delegate it? Is this a task that could or should be delegated? Or does it require 100%, 200% of your attention? Now, here's a very thoughtful question. Do you have enough time to delegate it? Because it's true. Sometimes when I tell myself it's faster if I just do it, because yes, you have to invest time when you delegate, right? You have to let people know, you have to give them clear instructions on what your expectations are, what the deadlines are going to be. If they have any doubt about accomplishing that task, right? You have to spend time with them. You're going to have to check in with them. But ultimately, are you going to be able to complete more with that team helping you, okay, than you're completing on your own, okay? And again, with a complex task or project, the answer is usually yes. You're going to be able to accomplish much more with a team kind of taking up certain elements of this project. Can the task be assigned with very clear instructions? Okay, sometimes I do see delegation happening without clear instructions, okay? And that's just slowing everybody down, because now you've just given a task to somebody and they're going to spend so much time trying to figure it out and coming back to you and looping back and kind of, you have to be able to give clear instructions at the beginning and throughout, okay? Consider the experience and the skills of the individual that you're delegating to, right? Is this something up their alley, right? If you're managing a team, if you have people reporting to you, I think it's an art and very valuable if you understand what are the goals of each person on my team and what are their natural, talents and strengths. And is this something that they're going to be able to carry out? Or is there somebody else on my team that is so much better? And I think it absolutely is worth considering. What are the talents and skills, on my team? And if you don't have direct reports, just amongst your colleagues, right? Who will love and be motivated by this task, or am I just sort of wasting my own time and their time, by sending things out? Okay. Communicating.
That's a good point, Laura, because
Yep.
I have actually identified that people were in the wrong jobs through delegating. Like their personalities or their skill sets weren't properly aligned with the role that they were in.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think there's a tendency to say, well, this is the job, this is what you have to accomplish, and we're all the same. And if you have this job, this is what you have to do. And yet, we're not computers, we're not clones. We're not clones of each other. Everybody brings a certain, different set of talents to their job, right? And to life. And so, yeah, there's many benefits, let's say, of getting close to the people who are around us and understanding what motivates them, right? What are their goals, and what are they good at? And in so doing, you may find, oh my gosh, we have some people that we may have to kind of redeploy and put into different roles and things like that. And I think that's okay, right? If we want the projects done at the end of the day, I think that's a very good approach.
Yeah. And Laura, I also think sometimes you have to let them figure it out. Sometimes
Absolutely.
Giving clear instructions it's more time doing that, to say, okay, I need you to do this. Here's the boundaries, go do it, right?
Yeah.
So that they can figure it out and how to do it and how to do, problem solving. Because if you're given step by step, you might well go ahead and
do it
yourself, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, using that critical thinking, I think helps a lot of times, and it benefits the person as well, because you can't train them on everything, and sometimes you just got to trust that, hey, I'm giving them the boundaries, they'll go and they'll figure it out and it'll get done.
Absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes it'll get done way, so much better in such a better way than you would have thought. So I think, yeah, the trick is instructions, and I guess boundaries is maybe a better word for it. These are the deadlines. These are the boundaries. This is what, can't happen, should happen. And then letting somebody creatively solve that. And then that way you're not micromanaging, right? Because we don't want to be micromanagers either. And sometimes, micromanaging, it happens, right? Because we're concerned about the quality of a project or output, and we're just a little bit nervous. And so you step in a little bit too much, but that can hamper somebody's leadership, right? And somebody's motivation too. So, and that can be a time bandit. So yeah, veering away from let's not micromanage. Again, critical thinking, understanding who's on our team, and sometimes just stepping back and saying, I'm going to give you this. How would you do it? Run with it. Right? Gives, the person a certain momentum and energy, right? To get the task done in a really good way. So absolutely, very good observation, Surya. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Keeping stakeholders in the loop. And again, I think going back to communication, understanding who our stakeholders are, right, within a project or a complex task. And again, is it a client? Is it my upline? It's my director, my president? Keeping in mind a little bit of back and forth, two-way communication. Sometimes I'm guilty of, I'm doing the work, I'm so busy. I'm busy, busy, busy. That's why you're not hearing from me. And then people around me may be thinking, what is she working on? Oh my gosh. And so I have found also another way to preemptively save time, right? You're investing a little bit of time at the outset, but having a strategy to keep people in the loop too, whether that's your client, right? Or your director or the team that you're working on a project with. So kind of keeping that back and forth communication. It doesn't have to be an over communication or a micromanaging communication, but just keeping people in the loop. Maybe it's a quick text, a quick IM. Hey, so-and-so, I'm working on this today. I'm going to work on that tomorrow. We're making progress, et cetera, et cetera. But that's also a way to preemptively, make sure that your projects are staying on course. And again, I think that does go back to our last presentation on project management. Just having a cadence for communication is a great, it's just a great practice no matter what. And I think this is helping us. The goal here with these tips is to help us winnow down our to-do lists, okay? To winnow them down and make sure that we have the appropriate people working on projects with us when needed, okay? So now that we've talked about sort of this way of prioritizing and critically thinking about our task lists, let's move on to another effective time management tool, and that is the urgent important matrix. And Erin is going to kick this off for us. Erin? Oops, might be on mute. Erin, you there?
I'm steady talking and I'm on mute.
There you go.
I'd like to go over Covey's urgent important matrix. In the business classic, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey popularized the concept of the urgent important matrix. Former US President Dwight Eisenhower used it to organize his tasks using this approach, and Covey rediscovered it and made it relevant for business and personal life. So when we hear the words urgent and important, many think it's the same. But when it comes to time management, being able to distinguish between the two is key, as managing time effectively means spending your time on things that are important and not just urgent. We all get those emails every once in a while that have that in the subject line, it'll say urgent, please read, or that flagged exclamation saying that the email is important. But now what we're going to do is create our own urgent and important matrix. So grab that pen and paper that we wrote down our, top 5 to 7 things. And I want you to draw a big box on your piece of paper and then divide it into 4 squares or quadrants. And I'm going to do this as well because I have some things I need to work on. But before we move on, we want to distinguish between the difference between rather important and urgent. Important are the activities that lead to achieving your goals and have the greatest impact on your life. And then those urgent things are activities that demand immediate action, but are often associated with someone else's goals. So that's the other thing that we need to, be mindful of, is what I have on my to-do list for me, or is it for someone else? But we are going to go ahead and move along. And we're going to go through the quadrants together to learn how it applies to our lives and our careers. And as we go through each quadrant, fill in your personal tasks that best fit the description. So we're going to get started in quadrant 1, and that's in the upper left corner. Quadrant 1 is for activities that are both urgent and important and tend to be about dealing with critical issues as they arise and meeting significant commitments. These duties need to be done right now before you move on to anything else. So in quadrant 1, in your box, fill in the daily tasks in your life that you think are urgent and important. I know for some of us, that may be getting a cup of coffee. But just an FYI point, if you find that most of your daily, weekly, or monthly tasks meet the criteria of urgent and important, you may be experiencing stress, burnout, feeling out of control, feeling like you're always putting out fires. Again, those are moments where, again, if I feel overwhelmed, I'm shutting down. Is everyone good in quadrant 1? You have your list? Next, we're going to move on to quadrant 2, and it's located in the upper right corner. Here we put success-oriented tasks that are critical to achieving goals. These tasks should be one after items in quadrant 1. Wait, let me go back over that. Jumbling up my words. These tasks should be one after items in quadrant 1 when those items are complete, but shouldn't be put off for quadrants 3 or 4. I hope that made sense to everybody. It has to be done after 1, but you can't jump into 3 or 4 until these are done. If we spend time in this quadrant, we can keep items from moving into the urgent and important quadrant. So what are your important but not urgent tasks? Those are what we're going to put in quadrant 2. Laura, I can agree with you there.
I think 100% of, yeah, I'm in 1. Why? Because there's meetings, there's things you're prepping for, there's things that, oh my gosh, you maybe should have attended to earlier and haven't. And so now they are urgent. And so it's like, bam, getting through that urgent and important. These are not unimportant things to do, work related. Yet there are so many longer term things that are important, not necessarily urgent. They don't have a deadline, right? And I tend to love those deadlines. And because these things maybe don't have a deadline, they don't get done or they don't get the attention they deserve. So I think that's at the heart of it, right? This whole conversation. How can we make more time to get into this quadrant and work on the things that truly make an impact in our lives and in our career?
Definitely. And then what I've also found, there are items that can sometimes end up in quadrant 2, but because you've been given a deadline, but maybe that deadline is 2-3 months out.
Yes.
So you let it stay on that back burner, and then all of a sudden now it has become urgent because you waited until the last minute to get it done.
Yes.
But if you find that most of your tasks meet the criteria of important and not urgent, you'll find that you may be feeling, this outcomes of long-term perspective or growth and control and have fewer crises. So now we'll have Laura take us through the next 2 quadrants.
Thank you, Erin. So moving into the lower left corner, quadrant 3, this is our urgent, not important quadrant. And these activities do not move you forward towards your own goals. Sort of the emails that Erin was mentioning, something comes through and it's marked urgent, important, this and that. It has all the red bells and whistles on it, And again, critical thinking, is this urgent and important for me to do and for my, and is this for somebody else that needs to get done? And you have to really think, is this something that can be delayed? Can I cut this short? Can I delegate this again, right? Is this something I can delegate or put off? Can I say no in a very positive, high quality way? Is this something that I can, push back on? So yes, for instance, an email from a colleague comes through, and it feels and looks really urgent, but do you have to stop what you're doing to reply, or can it wait until the end of the day? Okay, so these are the questions without overthinking things, but I think these are the questions that we deserve, to ask, right? And we have to, at the end of the day, have that clarity and just not, make sure the tail is not wagging the dog, I guess is the saying. So if the response can wait, you've read through it, you've thought about it, then this is a quadrant 3 item, okay? And it should be acted upon when your quadrant 1 is empty. And even when you've spent some time, after you've spent some time in quadrant 2, if you can really put this off until the end of the day, or can delegate it, or can say no, go back to your quadrant 1, go back to your quadrant 2. A good strategy with these items that fall into quadrant 3 is called OHIO. Has anybody heard of OHIO? It's an acronym for only handle it once. Okay, if you have to handle these items, right, it does fall to you, then be as efficient as you can by delegating them, transferring them, tending to them as needed, but without getting bogged down. Important not to get bogged down into these items. Only handle it once, Ohio. Think of that's the state of Ohio. Only handle it once so you can spend more time, again, in quadrants 1, getting those things out the door and delivered, and then quadrant 2, your longer term goals and objectives. Okay, so FYI, if you find that your day is taken up, or even on the list of your items that you put down, if many of them are falling into this quadrant 3, you may find and experience the following outcomes: delays, deadlines jeopardized, right? Why? Because you're staying busy. This is busy work with low payoff. You're staying busy and you're not tending to your quadrants 1 and your quadrants 2. So those things may jump up, right? And surprise you. You've been busy, quote unquote. Oh my gosh, I've been busy all day long, but I've been working on other people's objectives. Okay. So that is quadrant 3. Interruptions, some phone calls, some emails, reports, some meetings. Just be very, be very careful, be cognizant. Again, using critical thinking. And only handle it once. Moving right along, in quadrant 4, we're getting to the not important. This is not urgent and not important, okay? These are the items that are trivial, interruptions, just distractions. They should be avoided if possible. Again, busy work, answering every single email, cleaning out that inbox, okay? We need to be very mindful of our time here, okay? And if you find that most of your tasks that you jotted down meet the criteria of not urgent and not important, you may find the following outcomes: a feeling of never getting ahead. Why is it that I'm not getting ahead in life or at work or on this project? Why is my task or my project behind in terms of its deadline or its deliverables? It may be because you're staying busy with very trivial, very busy work, time wasters, some of those time bandits that we talked about earlier, those impromptu meetings that really we should definitely be saying no to. Escape activities, social media, excessive TV, irrelevant emails, right? Even in the evenings when sometimes I do need to get caught up on stuff. I'm in the habit of watching certain shows, right? With my with my daughter, with my family, and maybe some of that could be given up. I mean, as long as I have things that need to get done and out the door, you know, that's going to get me more ahead. So just critically thinking about how we spend our time and not spending too much time here. Really, you only want to be here once everything else is cleared out, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So moving right along, just as a review, we'll take a look at this entire quadrant once again, 1, 2, 3, 4. In short, a good way to look at this quadrant is take care of what's in quadrant 1. Okay, if you have items in your quadrant 1 right now, definitely Downton Abbey, absolutely. Oh my gosh, so many good shows now. Very addictive. But yeah, quadrant 1, if you have things here, tend to them after this workshop, get on it, get them done, get them out the door. Why? So you can live in, ultimately we want to live in quadrant 2. Okay, or our productive hours at least should be in quadrant 2. And this is true recreation. I mentioned vacation. Vacation is important, right? Reading, somebody said, reading, you know, that true recreation that feeds you, the relationship building that is so important in life among our families, our friends, and at work. Absolutely. Relationship building, planning for the future, understanding what our values are, preventing long-term problems, right? Preparing for the future, empowering ourselves, right? Through education, investing in ourselves. Okay, this is where we want to live. Most of our productive, you know, waking time should be in quadrant 2. And then quadrant 3 is more, okay, you have to deal with it. You know, it's urgent, maybe for somebody else, maybe not for you. Probably you have to, you know, deal with it to a certain extent. Some reports, some emails, interruptions, meetings, etc. See what you can do to get it off your plate efficiently. Only handle it once. And then 4, think about it as vacation, really. This is where, you know, this is where I'm watching my shows. I'm binge watching, you know, I'm spending time maybe on social media, getting caught up. This is where I go during productive hours, only when everything else is really cleared out. So this matrix, you know, it's tried and true. I'm sure you're all very familiar with it. It's an effective way to really see things in a new light so that you can determine what's important but not urgent, and moving from a survival mode, you know, living in that quadrant number 1, to true achievement. Okay, if we can discipline ourselves and really, you know, work with this quadrant, this can get us out, you know, from any of the boxes that we're living in right now, so that we can be in that you know, second box. So now that we've covered some ways to filter our workflow, let's switch gears and look at how we can leverage technology perhaps a bit more, and devices that we use on a daily basis to increase our productivity. Erin.
Thanks, Laura. So I'm going to open this up to everyone. I know that we asked, you know, how do you organize your day, but what additional tools do you use other than lists to stay organized on the go? When we started the year back in January, I went and got a personal planner, and I thought that it was going to be an effective tool for me. But unfortunately, what I found was that having to-do lists in several different places was a little chaotic for me. And that planner lasted maybe 2 weeks. You know, I've never used the notes on my phone. That's a good one, Amber and Laura. But yeah, Outlook, Yahoo, Google, Gmail, Trello. Yep, Outlook for everything, blocking out that time. And what is it that you're doing during those specific blocks? Slack, smartphone, notes, as you all mentioned, and then Evernote. Personal items as well, make them private. Good point, especially if you're sharing your calendar. But I'd like to share a tip for calendaring, no matter what tool you use. One super easy approach is for the day person works on her priorities first thing in the morning. And at the end of the day, we'll block time for creating a to-do list for the next day. The night person works on their priorities much later in the day and uses the morning to block time for creating a to-do list for the current day. So it's a matter of knowing, are you a morning or an afternoon person? But every person is different, and identify when you are most productive and try to organize your workday around those times. Who's familiar with the eat the frog concept?
Oh my gosh.
These are your toughest items when you have the most energy and are not yet inundated with emails and other distractions. I know for many of us, that may be the first thing in the morning. Sometimes some of us have to get up and start working before the rest of our teams start working, because that's our me time. But now that we've gone through that matrix and we're all super organized at this point, it's important to also take time to unplug from your technology and recharge. So adding in that self-care, Laura mentioned it with vacationing. We have to disconnect. And whether you consider this in quadrant 2 or quadrant 4, you need to make time to get away from all the productivity tools once in a while to refresh. Yeah, Kim, I would probably think that many of us are probably morning people. I know by 2 o'clock, I'm ready for a nap.
I make it a point actually to get to know among my team who's a morning person and who's an evening person, just for my own outreach to them, right? So I think it's important to know, right, who on your team is morning, or who can you find super late at night, you know, and if you're around later, IMing them or asking them some, you know, favor or complex, you know, ask, that's going to come in the evening for them once they've had their coffee and everything. Or if it's, you know, Erin, I know I can reach her in the morning and get things done, you know, and then I have other colleagues who are like, oh no, I'm not, you know, not there yet, not ready.
No meetings before noon.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm okay, you know, I'm going to want to kind of communicate complex things with folks when they're, you know, at their highest energy levels, I guess, if that makes sense.
Definitely. But now we want to make sure that we are making the most of each day. And that's what today's workshop was actually about, making sure that we're intentional with the time that we have in the day, and that we are not bogged down with, you know, extra unnecessary things, but being focused. Here are a few things to remember as you look to make the most out of each day and set time for all of your tasks. One, remember what is important. If you don't know what your most important goals and priorities are, then it's hard to know how to spend your time efficiently. If it's truly isn't important, or if it doesn't allow you to take a break from the pressures of real life, make time for something else that is. 2, going back to Laura's point of Ohio, take a trip to Ohio and only handle it once. Everything that comes into your inbox should be tasked, tossed, transferred to someone else, or tended to as needed. And then 3, spending time offline. Learn to step away and take some time off. It might feel like a guilty pleasure, but you'll be doing the right thing for yourself and your company and your family in the long run. I tell Laura that all the time, girl, take some time off. Let's step away from this.
Thank you, Erin.
You know, I'm good for that reminder.
Love it.
But at the end of the day, the challenge is not to manage time, but to manage ourselves. Are there any tips that have resonated with any of you all today that you think you'll be able to implement immediately? I know that matrix for me stands out. I need to be more intentional with my to-do list. Because what exactly is important that needs to get done right away, and what things can I just handle on, you know, as I'm able to approach it. Yes, Amber, I'm on the same page with you. And trying to live out of quadrant 2 and avoid 1. But I think that the bottom line is, how do we do more with less, and how to truly accomplish and achieve not only our professional, but important personal goals, given the time that we have. As we wrap up, I did want to let everyone know that if you are interested in continuing your education, Laura and I are here. We've shared this at every workshop. We are here to help you navigate what those options may look like specifically for you. Those that are not familiar with DeVry University and our programs, we are a program both online and campus that caters to working adults. So you have the flexibility with your class schedule so that you can continue to maintain your full-time work and support your families, but also take that time to invest in yourselves. We offer master's degrees, bachelor's, associates, and certificate programs in the fields of technology, business, and healthcare administration. But if you have any questions or again, want to see what these opportunities look like specifically for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to either Laura or myself, and we will be glad to assist you. But I want to thank you all so much again for joining us. This is our 6th presentation. Time is really flying, but thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let us share those questions with us now. And if there's no questions, Elizabeth and Saria, we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Erin, Laura. Great presentation. I see a couple comments. Yep, great presentation from Amber. So again, thank you so much for joining us today and your time. Before we wrap up, if there's no other questions, I'd like to congratulate Vanessa. You're the winner of our 2 Diamondbacks against Padres tickets on September 1st. So we'll be sending you your e-vouchers for the game shortly. And let me see here. Oh, just comments here. I think there's no other questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up a little early today. Thank you again, everyone, for joining, and we look forward to your participation tomorrow. Don't forget our Business Diversity Summit tomorrow from noon to 1:30. It is open to the public, so please join us. It is virtual this year, so it will be live streamed through our YouTube channel. So please make sure you register to receive the link. Again, ladies, thank you so much and see you next time.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
Bye, everyone.